I'm Millie, 34, and I thought I'd built a perfect life with my husband, Mark. For 7 years, I poured my heart into being a loving wife and stepmom to his son, Jake. I fixed up our home, cheered at every football game, and worked hard to create a real family. But one night, it all fell apart when Mark believed Jake's cruel lies instead of the truth I knew he felt deep down. 3 weeks later, he called, expecting me to apologize. Instead, I handed him divorce papers. Before I share how I went from devoted wife to filing for divorce in just 3 weeks, tell me where you're watching from. And if someone's ever believed lies about you, hit that subscribe button. I met Mark 6 years ago at a marketing conference in Chicago. I was speaking on digital strategy, and he caught my eye with his sharp questions from the audience. His confidence and warm, crinkly-eyed smile drew me in. After my talk, he handed me his business card, complimented my ideas, and soon we were grabbing coffee, then dinner. It turned into a whirlwind romance that swept me away. Mark was divorced and had an 11-year-old son, Jake. I knew dating a single dad meant embracing his kid, too, and I was excited to be a positive part of Jake's life. Mark took his time introducing us, making sure Jake was okay with his dad dating again. Our first meeting was at Jake's favorite pizza spot. I was so nervous I changed outfits 3 times, finally picking jeans and a blue sweater Mark said made my eyes pop. Jake was shy, giving one-word answers and glancing at his dad for comfort. 6 months later, Mark proposed on a romantic Lake Michigan getaway. Our wedding was stunning, with 100 guests and Jake as best man. His sweet speech about welcoming me to the family brought tears to my eyes, filling me with hope for our future. Moving into Mark's house wasn't easy for any of us. The place was nice but felt cold and empty. With Mark's blessing, I redecorated, adding warmth to make it a home for all 3 of us. I left Jake's room alone, respecting his space, only offering help if he wanted it. Those early days were full of hope and hard work. I knew blending a family would be tough, but I was all in. Jake was hitting his teens, and I expected some pushback against a new stepmom. His mom lived out of state, seeing him only for summer and holidays, so I tried to bond without stepping on her toes. I showed up to Jake's football games, shouting from the stands and learning the rules of a sport I'd never cared about. I cooked his favorite meals, memorizing what he liked. When algebra tripped him up, I sat with him at the kitchen table, helping him solve problems with my own school smarts. Sometimes, I felt we were connecting. We'd have family movie nights where Jake actually watched with us, not just his phone. One Saturday, he asked for my help on a marketing project for school, respecting my expertise. And that Christmas when he lit up over the gaming laptop I'd carefully picked out? It felt like a win. Mark saw my efforts and appreciated them. After Jake went to bed, he'd hug me tight, thanking me for being so kind and patient with his son. Those moments meant the world, proof that my hard work mattered. My coworker Sophia, a stepmom herself, became my go-to for advice. She got how tricky it was to bond with a kid who might see me as an outsider. Over lunch, she shared tips and warned me about teen manipulation, but I brushed it off, thinking Jake and I were building something real. I was proud of our home. The living room got cozy sectionals and soft lighting for family chats. The kitchen was my haven, stocked with gadgets and always smelling of fresh meals. The backyard went from plain grass to a gorgeous patio where we hosted summer barbecues for friends and family. Mark's parents, Barbara and Richard, welcomed me warmly at first. Barbara loved seeing Mark happy again, and Richard valued the stable home I created for Jake. Family gatherings felt formal but nice, and I slowly felt like part of their world. I started dreaming of growing our family. Mark and I talked about having a kid together but agreed to wait until Jake was older and our family felt solid. I pictured a little sibling for Jake, hoping it would bring us closer. There were moments that worried me, though, cold looks from Jake when Mark wasn't around or snarky comments about things I said or did. I chalked it up to typical teen moodiness, nothing serious. I told myself love and patience would win him over eventually, convinced these were just small hurdles in building our family. I poured my heart into being the perfect wife and stepmom, convinced my love would win Jake over. Looking back, I was so focused on building a dream family that I missed the warning signs. Little clues were bubbling up, hinting at trouble that would soon explode into a betrayal that changed everything. Jake's behavior shifted so slowly I barely noticed at first. At 17, in his junior year, I chalked up his distance to typical teen stuff. But it became hard to ignore. Family dinners, once sacred, were now marked by Jake's empty chair and texts about late study sessions or club activities. One night, after Jake skipped 3 dinners in a row, I made his favorite lasagna to lure him home. When he texted he was at a friend's for a project, rejection stunned me. Mark just shrugged. "That's high school," he said. "Projects always happen somewhere else." I started noticing worrying signs. Passing Jake's room, I caught him whispering on the phone, his voice dropping when he saw me. Once, I heard him mutter, "She's always in my business," with an eye roll as I walked by. Then things started vanishing. My silver bracelet, always on my dresser, disappeared. $40 went missing from my wallet, though I swore I'd just gotten 60 from the ATM. When I told Mark, he brushed it off, saying I must have misplaced them. One Saturday, over coffee on the patio, I shared my worries about Jake. "He's never around, and when he is, he barely talks to me," I said, stirring my cup. Mark leaned back, sighing. "Millie, he's 17. Teens need space. They don't hang out with parents." "It feels personal," I pushed. "Like he's avoiding me, not you." "You're overthinking it," Mark said, waving it off. I was like that at his age. I dropped it, but the unease lingered like a low hum. Jake's grades started slipping, too. A school alert showed he was failing chemistry, so I offered to help. I knocked on his door, finding him lost in video games, headphones on. "Jake, I saw your chemistry grade," I said gently. "I was good at science." "Want help studying?" He ripped off his headphones, glaring. "You checked my grades behind my back?" "No, your dad and I get school alerts," I said calmly. "I just want to help." "I don't need your help," he snapped, voice rising. "Stop spying and tattling to Dad." "Jake, I care about you." "You're not my mom," he cut me off, face red with anger. "Stop acting like it." His words hit hard, leaving me stunned. I left his room, fighting tears, confused by his sudden hostility. I told Mark, but he downplayed it. "He's stressed about college apps," he said. "It's not personal." But it felt deeply personal, like he was rejecting everything I'd tried to build with him. Things got worse when I glanced at Jake's phone, left buzzing on the kitchen counter while he showered. Not meaning to snoop, I saw texts from a guy named Tyler about a party with alcohol and weed. I was torn. Mark needed to know about Jake's risky plans, but I didn't want to wreck our shaky bond. I decided to talk to Mark about setting firmer rules for Jake without mentioning the texts, hoping it'd fix things without breaking his trust. That talk went south fast. When I suggested Jake needed more structure, Mark got defensive. "What, you think I'm a bad parent?" he snapped. "No," I said, caught off guard. "I just think teens need clear boundaries, especially with choices that could hurt their future." "What exactly are you talking about?" Mark pressed, his eyes narrowing. "Just typical teen stuff," I said, dodging. I wasn't ready to share the text I'd seen, unsure how Mark would react. "I've raised Jake for 17 years, Mark snapped, his voice icy. "I know what he needs better than someone who's only been around a few years." The air crackled with tension as I left the room. Then I saw Jake in the hallway, smirking before he hit it. That smug look sent a chill through me. He'd been eavesdropping, thrilled by our fight. Jake started dating Brittany around then, and she took an instant dislike to me. At dinner, she'd chat warmly with Mark but give me cold, clipped answers. Once, I overheard her tell Jake, "How do you stand her being here all the time," when she thought I couldn't hear. I started feeling like a stranger in my own home. Every step was cautious, like I was dodging Jake's hostility or another clash with Mark. The house I'd poured love into felt like a battlefield where I was losing ground. But I kept believing this was just a rough patch. I'd invested too much heart and time to give up now. I clung to hope that love and patience would fix things, blind to how shaky my place in this family really was. My 34th birthday was supposed to be special. I'd booked a fancy Italian restaurant weeks in advance, excited for a night with Mark and Jake. That morning, Mark made my favorite French toast, with fresh berries and lilies on the table. "Happy birthday, love," he said, kissing my cheek. "Dinner's at 7. "Where's Jake?" I asked, noticing he wasn't there. Mark's face tightened. He forgot about a study group for a big test. He's sorry he'll miss breakfast. I hid my disappointment. "He'll be at dinner, right? I booked it weeks ago." Mark paused, setting my plate down. "Actually, Jake mentioned a senior project at Tyler's tonight. It's a big deal for his grades." "On my birthday?" I said, hurt spilling out. "We talked about this last weekend." "I know, he feels awful," Mark said, but I doubted it. "This project matters for college." "You're letting him skip my birthday for a last-minute project?" I asked, appetite gone. "Millie, his future's at stake," Mark said. "I can't make him miss this." I felt erased, my special day tossed aside for what I suspected was another of Jake's lies. I nodded quietly as Mark promised to make it up to me, but it hurt. At dinner, Jake's empty chair taunted me, proof we weren't the family I'd hoped. Mark tried to be sweet, but it was clear, Jake always came first, and I was an afterthought. Driving home, I spoke up. "Mark, I feel like an outsider in our family." Today made that obvious. "That's unfair," he shot back. "It's just bad timing with his project." "It's not just today," I said, voice shaking. "Jake pushes me away, and you let him." We argued for hours, Mark defending Jake while I tried to show him the pattern. We ended with tired apologies, but something broke. That fight revealed a crack in our marriage that only grew. After my birthday, Jake got bolder, his disrespect sharper. I noticed Mark's looks changing, doubt crept into eyes that once held trust. Later, I learned Jake was whispering to him when I wasn't there, hinting I acted differently without Mark around. "She gets so mad sometimes, Dad," I overheard Jake say one night, thinking I was still out. "I don't want to stir trouble," he added, stopping when I walked in, his glance at Mark twisting my stomach with dread. Things kept getting worse. One afternoon, my expensive work laptop was ruined by water damage. Jake, homesick from school, swore he knew nothing, but it was fine when I left it on my desk that morning. After that, Mark started questioning me about Jake. "He says you yelled at him about his laundry yesterday," he said one night, his tone casual but his eyes sharp. "That's a lie," I said, stunned. "I was in meetings all day. I barely saw him." Mark nodded, but doubt lingered in his gaze. He seemed really upset. "Mark, Jake's lying," I insisted. "It never happened." His face hardened. "That's a big accusation, Millie. Why would he make that up?" I couldn't answer without sounding like I was attacking Jake, so I backed off, dread knotting my stomach. Home felt tense, full of unspoken accusations. Simple tasks like laundry made me nervous. Jake might twist them into something ugly to tell Mark. My safe haven was turning hostile. Sophia noticed my exhaustion at lunch one day. "You okay at home?" she asked, worry in her eyes. I broke down, spilling everything, Jake's worsening behavior, Mark's growing doubts, my loneliness in my own family. Sophia listened, her face serious. "Millie, this sounds like Jake's deliberately turning Mark against you," she said. "And Mark's letting it happen. You need family counseling." With Sophia's encouragement, I suggested counseling to Mark that night. "It could help us communicate better," I said carefully. Mark shut it down fast. "We don't need a stranger fixing our family. It's just a rough patch." It's more than that, I pressed. I feel pushed out of my own home. You're being dramatic, he scoffed. Jake's just acting like a normal teen, and you're taking it personally. His refusal felt like another door slamming shut, blocking any hope of fixing things. Then things got darker. I found my home office in disarray, my passport moved, financial papers shuffled. When I checked my bank account, $500 was gone from a recent deposit. Only Mark and I had access to that account, set up for emergencies years ago. I asked Mark about the money. He seemed confused but offered no answers. Maybe you transferred it and forgot, he said. You've been stressed. The constant gaslighting made me doubt myself. Was I forgetting things? Overreacting to Jake's behavior? The questions ate at me, shaking my confidence and grip on reality. Mark's parents, Barbara and Richard, started acting distant during visits. Barbara, once warm, now focused on Mark and Jake, treating me like a stranger. After a Sunday dinner, I asked Mark if he noticed their change. He shrugged. They're worried about Jake. He told them you've been harsh with him. What? I gasped. That's not true. What did he say? He says you criticize him all the time and make him feel unwelcome, Mark said, like it was no big deal. They're his grandparents, Millie. They're protective. Learning Jake was spreading lies beyond our home hit hard. The bond I'd built with Mark's family was being torn apart by a teen with a hidden agenda. Jake's campaign grew. He told friends I didn't want visitors, pushing them away. Mark's colleagues, our social circle, heard subtle lies about my moods. My support network was crumbling, leaving me alone with my growing fear and anxiety. I didn't see it then, but these were steps in a calculated plan. Jake was setting me up for a devastating betrayal, and I was walking right into it, blind to the trap waiting just ahead. My Seattle business trip was set for 3 days, but meetings wrapped up early, so I caught an afternoon flight home. I didn't tell Mark, thinking it'd be a sweet surprise to show up a day early. Now, I wish I'd texted him, maybe things would have turned out differently. That choice changed my life forever. The house looked normal when my taxi pulled up at 6 p.m. But loud music blasted from inside, way louder than Mark ever allowed. I unlocked the door and stepped into a scene straight out of a teen movie. Jake and a dozen teens lounged on our furniture. Liquor bottles, some half-empty, sat on the coffee table, and the air reeked of marijuana. Plastic cups and snack bags littered the floor, with a dark stain on the cream rug I'd bought just weeks before. I stood frozen in the doorway, unnoticed at first. Then a girl nudged Jake, whose eyes widened when he saw me. He stumbled up, clearly drunk, as the music kept pounding. "What's going on?" I asked, my voice sharp over the noise. "Where's your dad?" Jake fumbled with his phone, turning down the music. "He's at a work dinner," he slurred. "Won't be back till late." I scanned the mess, booze, drugs, underage kids in my home. Taking a deep breath, I said firmly, "Everyone who doesn't live here, leave now. Party's over." Groans erupted, but when I shut off the sound system, the teens grabbed their stuff and left. Jake watched, his face shifting from shock to something colder as his friends shuffled out. Once alone, I faced Jake. "What were you thinking? Alcohol and drugs with minors? Do you know how serious this is?" "It's no big deal," he mumbled, swaying. "Everyone does it." "It's a huge deal," I shot back, grabbing the liquor bottles. "This is illegal, Jake. You could get in real trouble, and look at our home." "Leave it," he snapped, suddenly angry. "I'll clean up before Dad's home. He doesn't need to know." "I won't lie to your father," I said, still collecting bottles. "He needs to know what happened." That's when Jake's attitude flipped. The moody teen vanished, replaced by someone cold and calculating. He grabbed his phone, turned away, and made a call, his voice low and urgent. "Dad," he said, fake tears in his voice. Come home now. Millie's freaking out. She hit me, Dad. I'm scared. I froze, a bottle nearly slipping from my hand. Jake, that's a lie. I shouted. He ignored me, playing the victim for Mark. I'm scared. Please come home, he begged, then hung up. Why would you say that? I demanded, heart racing. Your dad will think I hurt you. That never happened. Jake's eyes locked on mine, cold and cruel. For the first time, I saw the malice behind his actions. This wasn't just teen rebellion, it was planned destruction. It's your word against mine, he shrugged. And Dad always picks me. I called Mark, but it went to voicemail. My frantic texts went unread as I tried to explain before he got home. The 20 minutes waiting for him were endless, watching Jake build his lie. He mussed his hair, wrinkled his clothes, and splashed water on his face to fake tears. Worst of all, he pressed his arm against the counter, making a red mark that would bruise, fake proof of his story. When Mark stormed in, his face was pure anger and worry. He rushed to Jake, who put on an Oscar-worthy act. She lost it, Dad, Jake sobbed, showing his arm. I had a few friends over, and she screamed and threw stuff. When I tried to calm her, she shoved me into the wall. That's not true. I cried, voice shaking. Mark, he threw a party with alcohol and drugs. I sent his friends home and was cleaning up when he called you with this lie. Mark glanced at the party mess, then at Jake. Is this true? You had alcohol here? I hoped he'd see reason, but Jake was ready. Just a couple beers someone brought without telling me, he said, sounding sorry. I was about to kick them out when Millie came home and lost it. She's always hated me, Dad. She was looking for a reason. That's not true. I pleaded. Mark, you know me. I'd never hurt Jake. Please believe me. Mark's eyes flicked between us, torn. Then he saw the red mark on Jake's arm, and his face hardened. Pack a bag, Millie, he said coldly. Get out tonight. His words hit like a punch. Mark, please, I begged. Jake's lying. He's playing you. I saw the bruise myself, Mark snapped, voice rising. My son's scared of you. Leave until we sort this out. Where do I go? I asked, tears breaking through my shock. Call a friend, get a hotel, I don't care, he said, ice in his tone. Just get away from my son. Mark, this is my home too, I said weakly. This was my house first, he shot back. I never thought you'd hurt Jake. Guess I was wrong. I glanced at Jake behind him, catching a triumphant glint in his eyes before he faked fear again. In that moment, I saw how a 17-year-old had masterfully plotted to push me out. With no options, I went upstairs, hands trembling as I packed a bag. Tears blurred my vision as I called Sophia, who offered her spare room instantly. Coming downstairs with my suitcase was humiliating. Mark stood, arms crossed, watching me grab my purse and charger. I never thought you'd fall for such a blatant lie, I said softly, meeting his eyes. 7 years, and this is all it takes to forget me. I saw the bruise, Mark said firmly. It doesn't lie. Your son does, I replied, voice cracking. You'll see one day, but it'll be too late. As I left, I caught Jake's smirk in the hallway when Mark wasn't looking. It confirmed his calculated plan to erase me from their lives. Driving to Sophia's, I called Mark over and over, but he didn't answer. I texted, explaining the truth, urging him to look at the evidence, to question why Jake called him instead of the cops. No reply came as the night dragged on. At Sophia's, she saw my tear-streaked face and hugged me tight. We'll figure this out, she promised as I sobbed in her arms. That night, on her guest bed, staring at the ceiling, my world felt shattered. The home I'd built, the man I loved, the life I cherished, gone because of Jake's lies and Mark's quick betrayal. The next morning, Mark's parents arrived to support him and Jake through this crisis. Jake's plan worked perfectly, casting me as the villain in a story he'd been weaving for months. They didn't know that kicking me out freed me from their web of lies. In the weeks ahead, that freedom would spark a fire in me to fight back in ways they never expected. I barely slept that first night at Sophia's, torn between tears, rage, and disbelief. But by morning, something shifted. The shock was fading, replaced by a growing resolve that would only strengthen. "You need a lawyer," Sophia said over coffee, watching me check my phone for Mark's non-existent replies. "He threw you out over a lie. This isn't just a misunderstanding." I nodded, reality sinking in. "You're right. I have to protect myself." That afternoon, Sophia introduced me to her cousin, Patricia Williams, a top divorce attorney. I hesitated at divorce, still hoping Mark would see the truth, but Patricia's blunt words changed everything. "Your husband's shown where his loyalty lies," Patricia said, her sharp eyes meeting mine across her desk. "This isn't about saving your marriage anymore. It's about protecting yourself moving forward." With Patricia's help, I started documenting everything. I made a timeline of Jake's worsening behavior, every missing item, every argument, every time Mark sided with him without checking the facts. Patricia urged me to check our finances. "Impulsive men like Mark often make rash money moves," she warned. She was right. I found $15,000 moved from our joint savings to Mark's personal account the morning after he kicked me out. The betrayal hurt, but it fueled my determination. Patricia guided me to gather evidence. I contacted our neighbors, the Johnsons, whose security cameras caught Jake's drunk friends leaving our house that night, with no sign of the chaos he claimed. The video's timestamp proved I wasn't alone with Jake long enough for his fake assault story. She also helped secure my finances. I redirected my paychecks to a new account and listed every investment and property I'd contributed to. I'd used my grandmother's inheritance for our kitchen remodel. I kept receipts for every chair, every upgrade I'd made to Mark's house. Through social media, we found a post Jake made in a private group, screenshot by a friend, finally got the stepmom out. Dad bought it completely. The cruelty shocked me, but it was solid proof of his lies. Mark stayed silent while I rebuilt my life. My calls and texts went ignored for weeks. The only contact was an email to Patricia, saying I could grab my things Saturday when he and Jake were out. 3 weeks felt like limbo. I kept working, and my kind boss gave me flexible hours to meet Patricia and sort my life. Sophia's guest room became my safe haven, her friendship my anchor in this dark time. My sister Laurel flew from Portland to be with me. Her support reminded me I had family who trusted me fully. With her and Sophia by my side, I went to the house that Saturday to collect clothes and belongings. Walking through the home I'd made beautiful felt strange. Our wedding photos still hung on the walls. My cookbook sat on the kitchen shelves. My rose bushes in the garden were blooming. Yet I was an outsider, given 2 hours to grab my things like a trespasser. Laurel found me on the bed, holding a photo from our Napa anniversary trip. "This isn't the end, Millie," she said softly, sitting beside me. "It's just a chapter closing. The next one will be better. You'll be free from those who don't value you." Her words hit deep, shifting my view. Maybe this painful exit wasn't a loss but a chance to escape the lies and rebuild a life true to me. As the 3-week mark neared, I changed outwardly to match my inner shift. I chopped my hair into a sleek bob, feeling lighter. I started kickboxing, turning pain into power. I bought clothes that fit the new me, not the wife I'd tried to be for Mark and Jake. I reached out to old friends I'd lost during my marriage. I saw now how Mark had quietly pushed them away, always finding reasons to prioritize family time. One by one, I reconnected, building a support network beyond Sophia and Laurel. On the 3-week mark, my phone rang, Mark's number. My heart raced, but I answered calmly, "Hello." "Millie," he said, forcing a casual tone. "We need to talk about what?" "About what, Mark?" I asked, keeping my voice even, as Patricia advised. About what happened, our marriage, if you've thought about your actions and want to come home. His assumption that I'd begged to return stunned me. My voice stayed steady. Let's talk, I said. Tomorrow, 1 p.m. at Les Maisons. I picked a fancy downtown restaurant, public to avoid drama, private enough for real talk. Sounds good, Mark said, relief in his voice. See you tomorrow. I hung up and called Patricia right away. He thinks I'll come back and apologize, I told her. Perfect, she said, a grin in her tone. He won't expect what's coming. Bring the papers tomorrow. I'll have them ready. I barely slept that night, running through what I'd say, how I'd stay calm facing the man who broke my heart. By morning, a quiet confidence settled in. I knew I was doing the right thing. Laurel helped pick my outfit, a sharp navy dress that screamed confidence, not romance. As she zipped it up, she gripped my shoulders. Be who you are, she said. Not who he thinks you are. Her words gave me strength. I grabbed the manila envelope from Patricia's office and headed to Les Maisons, ready to end one chapter and start a new one on my terms. Les Maisons was packed with the lunch crowd when I arrived 5 minutes early. I chose this place on purpose. It was my favorite, one Mark always called pretentious. Being here felt like reclaiming a piece of myself after years of compromises. I asked for a quiet table in the back, where the buzz of diners gave privacy but kept things civil. The hostess led me to a corner spot, perfect behind a decorative screen. Mark walked in right at 1, always on time. I watched him approach, unnoticed. He looked worn out, new lines around his eyes, shoulders slumped. Part of me felt a small thrill seeing his stress. Millie, he said, starting to lean in for a kiss but stopping, awkwardly sitting across from me. You look different. Better different, I said coolly, not mirroring his warmth. How are you? It's been rough, he said, calling a waiter over. For all of us. We ordered. Mark got scotch despite the hour. I chose sparkling water with lime. As the waiter left, Mark leaned in, serious. I've been thinking about what happened, our marriage. Family matters, Millie. We should work through this. His words sounded reasonable, but he didn't get it. He thought this was a small hiccup we could fix with effort. I've been thinking too, I said, sipping my water. About trust and loyalty. About what keeps a marriage strong. Mark nodded quickly. Right. Having a teen is tough. It takes patience from everyone. No, Mark, I said firmly. It takes trust. And you showed me you don't trust me when you believed Jake's lies without a second thought. His face tightened. Millie, I saw the bruise. What was I supposed to think? You should have thought your wife of 7 years, who's never been violent, might be telling the truth, I said, keeping calm despite my rising anger. You should have considered your son, who's been cold to me for months, might be lying. That's a big accusation, Mark said, his words sharp, like before. And I was your wife, I said, stressing the past tense. Was? His eyes widened. Are you saying? I pulled the manila envelope from my purse and set it between us. I'm filing for divorce. Mark stared at it, as if it might vanish. Then he gave a shaky laugh. You're not serious. This is just a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding? I said, stunned. You kicked me out over a lie, ignored me for 3 weeks, and took money from our joint account without a word. That's not a misunderstanding, Mark. That's betrayal. His phone buzzed, Jake's name on the screen. He ignored it, eyes on me, worry growing. I overreacted that night, I admit. But seeing Jake so upset. Look at this, I cut in, pulling up the evidence folder on my phone. This is security footage from the Johnsons across the street. The timestamp shows Jake's friends leaving at 6:15 p.m. My call to Sophia was at 6:23. That's 8 minutes for me to supposedly attack Jake and for him to call you crying. I slid my phone to Mark. He watched the footage, frowning. This doesn't prove anything, he said, but his voice wavered. And this? I showed him Jake's social media post, bragging about getting me out. Does this look like a victim or someone who planned it all? Mark's face paled as he read it. It could be out of context, he mumbled weakly. Then look at this. I pulled out statements from 2 of Jake's friends, saying I only asked them to leave, never touching Jake. Patricia had reached out, appealing to their conscience. Mark's phone buzzed again, Jake calling nonstop. He silenced it, looking shaken as the evidence piled up. Why show me this? He asked. I want you to see what you threw away, I said calmly. This divorce isn't a rash choice. It's because of your actions and Jake's lies. Mark's confidence faded, replaced by panic. Millie, we can fix this. Therapy, counseling, anything. Now that I see this. Now? I cut in. Why not 3 weeks ago? Why did you assume the worst about me then? He had no answer, and we both knew it. The divorce papers list my terms, I said, sliding the envelope closer. I've tracked every penny I put into our home, furniture, renovations, everything. Patricia's calculated a fair split. Mark stared at the envelope, frozen. You already have a lawyer. I got one the day after you kicked me out, I said. Unlike you, I don't make big decisions on impulse. His phone buzzed again. Mark glanced at it, annoyed. Jake keeps calling. He only does that when something's urgent. Maybe he feels his plan slipping, I said. Maybe he knows I'm showing you the truth. Mark hesitated, then answered. Jake, I'm busy. This is important. I heard Jake's frantic voice. Mark's face shifted from irritation to alarm. Calm down. What evidence? What post? He looked at me, understanding dawning. I'll be home soon. Don't do anything. We'll talk. He hung up, staring at me. He knows about the evidence, doesn't he? I nodded. One of his friends likely told him they talked to my lawyer. Truth finds a way out, Mark. Mark looked drained, reality hitting him hard. I messed up, he admitted softly. You did, I said, not cruelly. And now we both face the fallout. He reached for my hand, but I pulled back. Millie, give me a chance. Give us a chance, now that I know. It's not just that night, I said, calm despite the pain. It's months of you picking Jake over me, ignoring my worries, letting him tear me down. That night was just the breaking point of a pattern that would have kept going. His phone buzzed with a text. Mark glanced at it, jaw tightening. Jake says you're lying, that you faked evidence to frame him. Of course he does, I said, with a sad smile. 3 weeks ago, you'd have believed him instantly. Do you now? The question hung heavy, and Mark seemed to grasp its weight. After a pause, he shook his head. No, he said quietly. I don't think so. Then maybe you're starting to see what I've been saying all along. Mark looked shattered, the truth of what he'd lost sinking in. What now? He asked. Now take these to your lawyer, I said, nudging the envelope toward Mark. Fight me and make this painful, or accept my fair terms so we can both move on. Mark grabbed the envelope, hands shaky. Is there any chance for us? No, I said, soft but firm. That ended when you kicked me out. Some things can't be undone. His phone buzzed again, Jake's frantic texts. Mark silenced it, regret in his eyes. I need to handle this, face him. I've ignored too much. I nodded. Good luck, Mark. Jake needs real help, not excuses. As he stood to leave, he paused. "You seem stronger." "I am," I said. "Losing everything showed me who I am and what I'm worth." After Mark left, I stayed, ordering lunch and wine, quietly celebrating taking back my life. The talk went as Patricia and I planned, maybe better. I stayed calm, showed my evidence, and held my ground. Sipping my wine, I wondered about the chaos at Mark's house, picturing Jake's panic as his lies unraveled. I felt no glee, just a quiet sadness for what might have been if Jake had accepted me and Mark had been the husband I needed. But that sadness faded against my growing freedom. For the first time in years, I made choices just for me, no longer weighed down by a husband who didn't value me or a stepson who schemed against me. The freedom was scary but thrilling, a fresh start to build my own life. I finished my meal as Mark called 3 times, leaving urgent voicemails I ignored. His family's drama wasn't my burden anymore. That truth deserved a second glass of wine, and the chocolate dessert Mark always called too much. Sometimes, I thought, savoring each bite, one story's end is just the start of a better one. 6 months changed everything. From my new apartment's window, I watched the sunset paint the skyline pink and gold. This place was smaller than our old house, but it was mine, decorated to my taste with no compromises. My living room had bold abstract art Mark hated. My kitchen gleamed with appliances he'd called pointless. Every corner screamed me, my choices, my life reclaimed. The divorce finalized 3 months ago, smoother than expected. Mark agreed to most terms without a fight. Patricia was surprised but pleased, guessing guilt drove his cooperation more than kindness. "He knows he screwed up," she said at our last meeting. "Fighting you would only make him look worse." The settlement was fair, letting me buy this apartment with savings to spare. I got half the value of the home improvements I funded, payment for furniture I left, and a share of our investments based on my contributions. No money could heal the betrayal's sting, the shame of being kicked out, the pain of 7 years tossed aside. That healing came slower, from within, tougher than the legal battle. Mark called often after Les Maison, his voicemails shifting from begging to admitting his failures. I listened but didn't reply, needing space to sort my emotions without him. Friends told me what happened when Mark got home that day. Jake, cornered by the evidence, lashed out, accidentally confessing his plot to oust me. His outburst forced Mark to see years of enabling, of letting Jake twist situations, of failing to set boundaries. It was a brutal wake-up call, sparking heated arguments and then a tense silence between them. Jake's behavior spiraled after I left. His grades tanked, he got caught drinking at school, and was suspended for online bullying, his perfect sun mask shattered. At work, my drive earned me a promotion to senior marketing director, a role I might not have chased while married to Mark. I dimmed my ambitions to avoid outshining him, a sacrifice I didn't see until it was gone. Laurel, thrilled by my growth, moved closer. She took a job at a nearby hospital and got an apartment 10 minutes away. Having family near after years of isolation was a comfort I hadn't realized I craved. Sophia stayed my rock, the friend who saw me at my lowest and cheered my comeback. We started Sunday brunches, catching up and facing life's ups and downs together. Through her, I met new friends who knew me as me, not Mark's wife or Jake's stepmom. Therapy became my lifeline. Dr. Elaine Carter helped me spot patterns from my marriage, how I'd shrunk myself to keep peace, to fit a role no one valued. Weekly sessions rebuilt my confidence, teaching me to trust my reality again. "Gaslighting leaves scars," Dr. Carter said once. "When someone makes you doubt yourself constantly, it chips away at everything. Rebuilding takes time and effort." I worked hard daily, pushing back negative thoughts, showing myself kindness when old doubts crept in, and celebrating small wins and reclaiming me. The woman who'd been undermined and tossed aside faded, replaced by someone stronger, wiser, and done settling. For months after my divorce from Mark was finalized, I stood in a bustling downtown coffee shop, waiting for my latte. The air smelled of roasted beans, and sunlight streamed through the tall windows, casting warm patterns on the wooden floor. I felt grounded, a stark contrast to the woman who'd once walked on eggshells in her own home. That's when I saw him, Mark, stepping up to the counter, looking older, his confident stride softened by something heavier. Our eyes met, and for a moment, time froze. My heart didn't race like it used to. Instead, a calm settled over me, a quiet strength I'd built in the months since our marriage ended. "Millie," he said, his voice tinged with surprise. "You look amazing." "Thanks," I replied, my tone even, no trace of the old nervous flutter. I noticed the gray at his temples, the tired lines around his eyes. "How are you holding up?" "Managing," he said, offering a weary smile. "Jake's in therapy now." It was long overdue. I nodded, not surprised. "That's good, Mark. For both of you." He shifted, gripping his coffee cup. "It took some rough moments to get here. Things I should have faced years ago." We moved to a small table by the window, the hum of the shop wrapping around us. Our conversation was brief, civil despite the weight of our past. I marveled at how easy it felt to talk to him now, no longer tethered to the pain of our shared history. As we stood to leave, he paused, his voice raw. "I made the worst mistake of my life that night, Millie. Sorry doesn't fix it, but I'm truly sorry. I should have trusted you, seen the truth." His words hung in the air, heavy with regret. I appreciated them, but they didn't pull me back. "Thanks, Mark," I said softly. "I hope you and Jake find some peace." He looked at me, searching. "Are you happy?" I smiled, honest and unshaken. "I am. Not despite what happened, but because of it." I found myself again. Walking away, I felt a door close, not with a slam, but with a gentle click. Mark's apology wasn't necessary for my healing, but it marked the end of our story. It freed me to pour my energy into the new chapter one was writing, one where I defined my own worth. That chapter had a new character, Daniel. He'd been a client at my marketing firm, his sharp questions during our project meetings reminding me of my early days with Mark. But Daniel was different, open, thoughtful, with no need to compete or control. After our project wrapped, he asked me to coffee, a simple gesture that sparked something cautious but real. Our connection grew slowly, like a seedling in spring. We were both careful, carrying lessons from past heartaches. Over quiet dinners and long walks, we built something honest, grounded in mutual respect. One evening, as we strolled along the riverfront, the city lights reflecting on the water, he turned to me, his eyes warm. "What I love about you, Millie, is your strength. You took pain that could have broken you and turned it into growth. That's incredible." His words sank deep, mirroring how I'd come to see myself, not as a victim of betrayal, but as a survivor who'd reclaimed her life. Daniel didn't define me, he celebrated the woman I was becoming. In his presence, I felt seen, not judged, valued for my resilience rather than my past. Word reached me through mutual friends about Jake. After his school suspension and other incidents, drinking, bullying online, his perfect son facade had crumbled. Therapy, once a last resort, became his lifeline. I learned he was starting to face the fallout of his parents' divorce, issues buried deep that had fueled his resentment toward me. Our family's collapse, as painful as it was, might have been the push he needed to confront those demons. I felt no victory in Jake's struggles. Instead, a quiet hope stirred that he might grow into someone better than the teen who'd schemed to erase me. His actions had hurt me deeply, but I didn't wish him harm, just growth, the kind I'd fought for myself. Forgiveness wasn't easy. It was a slow, messy process, not for Jake or Mark, but for me. I didn't want to carry the anger that once threatened to swallow me whole. Letting it go felt like shedding a heavy coat, leaving me lighter, freer to move forward without bitterness weighing me down. 6 months after leaving Mark's house with just a suitcase, I stood in my new apartment, hosting a housewarming party. The space was smaller than the home I'd shared with Mark, but every inch was mine. Bold abstract art splashed color across the walls, pieces Mark would have scoffed at. The kitchen gleamed with appliances I'd always wanted, no longer dismissed as unnecessary. My home reflected me, unapologetic, vibrant, and true. Laurel, Sophia, work friends, and new faces filled the room, their laughter warming the space. Laurel raised her glass, her eyes shining. "To fresh starts," she said, "and to my incredible sister, who rose from the ashes like a phoenix." Glasses clinked, and the chatter swirled around me. I stood by the window, watching the city lights twinkle below, reflecting on the wild path that brought me here. The betrayal that had shattered my world wasn't the end, it was the beginning of something real. Losing what I thought I needed gave me what I deserved: self-respect, true connections, and the freedom to be myself without compromise. Life rarely follows the script we write. The most painful detours can lead to the most beautiful places. I learned that trust isn't handed out blindly, it's earned, day by day. Family isn't just a shared address, it's built on loyalty and love. Most importantly, I discovered my worth doesn't hinge on others seeing it, it's mine, always. As the party wound down, guests hugged me goodbye, their warmth a reminder of the community I'd built. Daniel stayed, helping me stack glasses and nudge furniture back into place. The ease of it struck me, no tension, no eggshells, just a quiet comfort so different from my final months with Mark. "Thanks for sharing this new beginning with me," he said, pulling me into a gentle hug. In his arms, I felt my healing solidify. I hadn't just survived betrayal, I'd transformed because of it. The woman who'd been cast out over lies was gone, replaced by someone stronger, wiser, and fully herself. At work, my focus and grit landed me a promotion to senior marketing director. It was a role I might not have chased while married, when I dimmed my light to avoid outshining Mark. Free from that, I leaned into my ambitions, proving to myself what I was capable of. Laurel, inspired by my growth, moved closer. She took a job at a local hospital, her apartment just a 10-minute walk from mine. Having her nearby after years of distance was a gift, a reminder of family who stood by me without question. Sophia remained my anchor, the friend who'd seen me at my lowest and cheered my rise. Our Sunday brunch tradition became sacred, a time to laugh, vent, and support each other. Through her, I met new friends who knew me as Millie, not someone's wife or stepmom, each connection a thread in my new tapestry of belonging. Therapy was my cornerstone. Dr. Elaine Carter guided me to see how I'd shrunk myself in my marriage, giving up pieces of who I was to keep peace. Week by week, she helped me rebuild my confidence, trust my instincts, and silence the doubts Mark and Jake had planted. "Gaslighting scars deeply," she said once. "It makes you question your reality. Healing that takes time and deliberate work." I put in that work daily. I challenged negative thoughts, practiced kindness toward myself, and celebrated every step toward reclaiming my identity. The woman who'd been undermined and discarded faded, replaced by someone who refused to settle for less than she deserved. Running into Mark that day in the coffee shop was a moment of clarity. He was no longer the center of my world, just a figure from a closed chapter. His apology, raw and honest, didn't pull me back, it pushed me forward, confirming I'd made the right choice. Our story was over, and I was writing a new one, page by page. Daniel became a key part of that story. Our relationship wasn't a whirlwind like my romance with Mark had been. It was steady, built on mutual respect and shared values. We talked openly about our pasts, our fears, our hopes, creating a foundation that felt safe yet exciting. He saw my strength, not my scars, and that perspective helped me see myself the same way. Jake's journey, I heard, took a rocky turn. His suspension and other troubles forced him to confront his actions. Therapy, once a grudging obligation, became a space to unravel the anger and pain tied to his parents' divorce. I didn't celebrate his struggles. Instead, I hoped he'd find a path to growth, just as I had. Forgiveness, I learned, wasn't about excusing what Mark and Jake did. It was about freeing myself from the weight of their betrayal. Each day, I let go a little more, choosing peace over resentment, strength over bitterness. Standing in my apartment that night, surrounded by people who loved the real me, I felt whole. The betrayal that once threatened to break me had become the catalyst for a life I never could have imagined. I was no longer defined by Mark's choices or Jake's lies. I was Millie, resilient, authentic, and free. If you've ever been betrayed by someone you trusted, know this: the end of one chapter isn't the end of your story. It's the start of something new, and you hold the pen. Have you rebuilt after a deep hurt? Share your story below. If mine resonated, like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs hope. Thanks for walking this journey with me. Your worth isn't what others think, it's how you choose to rise.